Thanks very much. And hello, everybody. I'm going to just enter the full screen here. Really grateful that you all decided to spend an hour with us today. I promise to make it informative and even perhaps somewhat entertaining. And I think the size of our group today allows for questions. So, please do ask your questions, and we can maybe dive in a little bit. But I have a lot of really exciting materials on capital campaigns that I want to share with everybody. We'll start with this pile of money here, and we'll just spend a minute or so I can give you a little bit of a background on the Heller Fundraising Group, so you have some context for what I'm about to discuss. I'm not going to read everything out loud, but if you can take a look at your screen, here's our mission. And then this is just a selection of our clients. The company is based in New York City, but we've got clients all up and down the East Coast, and since the pandemic started elsewhere as well. You'll recognize some of these: Amnesty International, Audubon, and we work with a wide variety of nonprofits. This is our current team. It's a combination of both staff member employees and consulting partners. And of course, when you're a fundraising consulting firm, people wonder what you do because there are a lot of different subspecialties within fundraising. We don't do everything. We focus on capital campaigns, the feasibility or planning studies that lead up to them, helping nonprofits figure out how to ramp up the best practices and staffing of their development offices. And we institute major gift programs for our clients, and we do a lot of training and coaching like I'm doing today. And before I launch into the details of the capital campaign, I want to ask Natalie if she will please put our free tools link in the chat. There is, if you care to go to this link on our website, there's a bunch of useful fundraising tools that you can get there. And I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to do that. I may mention it again at the end if I have a moment. Let's see, we'll then take it from here. So in a very, very basic way, this is what a capital campaign is about. You want to take a nice big pile of money and transfer it into the bank account of your nonprofit. Now, I usually start with this because I want people to be really clear that this is the objective of your campaign. However, as I'm going to get to this in detail, if you focus on the money, you'll get some, but if you focus on the relationships and the community you're serving, the money will come your way. But we can't forget that the bottom line is you need to transfer a big pile of money into your bank account. Oops. Let's see. So I like to think sometimes about what the word campaign means. It's only really used in a handful of situations. Of course, there's the capital campaigns related to nonprofits. There's also political campaigns and military campaigns and marketing campaigns. And to me, the thing that all of those have in common is that there's a concerted effort that needs to happen and a lot of planning and strategy for that thing, that campaign, to go well, and that it's not a set it and forget it situation. Every campaign of any type, you plan, you start out, and then throughout the whole thing, whether it's 6 months or 3 years, you're continually adjusting and calibrating your strategy. And here's how the Heller Fundraising Group defines capital campaigns. So take a quick read at this, and we'll talk about it for a moment. So the idea that the campaign is not really about potentially a new building that you need to build. And we'll get into the various reasons for a campaign in just a couple of minutes. But that's kind of connected to the idea that it's not really about the money. And if you stick with me for a few minutes, you'll see really what I'm talking about when we look at the case for support that's needed for a good campaign. So here are some bad reasons for a campaign, but reasons that people often use to start out a campaign. Obviously, nothing to do this weekend is a joke, so I hope you're laughing. And I also want to address the issue of the world that we've been living in, particularly based on the pandemic over the last, year, 18 months or more. It is really, really vital that anybody working on a huge fundraising effort like a campaign believes deeply that the work that's being done in that campaign is going to make the community that the nonprofit serves stronger. And I believe strongly that it's not the time for half-hearted nonprofits, not the time for half-hearted fundraising. If you're going to wake up in the morning and do whatever difficult job you currently do at a nonprofit, you, I think, better believe that it's worthwhile and that you're doing something important, because your work is really hard, and it can be exhausting at times, it can be exhilarating at times, but you have to believe that it's doing something important to make the world a better place. And then that belief needs to transfer over to the people and foundations and others that you're going to talk to about your campaign. So you're going to see in a minute that we focus our work on capital campaigns on 6 elements. Natalie referred to those just briefly at the beginning. And some things change a little bit, and there are always novel solutions. Like there's a lot of donor cultivation and solicitation going on virtually now that I never thought would happen. But the 6 elements are still the 6 elements, and I think you're going to be excited to see how we structure this campaign work. So I'm going to right now dive into those, but I'm going to stop for a second just to see, Natalie, if perhaps there's any questions.
Not yet, no. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. They will be answered throughout the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, just entering full screen again. So these are the 6 elements of a successful campaign. They're all listed right here. And what we're going to do for the remainder of our time together is really look at each of these. You'll get the slides afterwards so that you can, you can have this. You don't have to take copious notes if you don't want to. It's kind of like sit back and absorb. And when we start working with any nonprofit, we work on these 6 things. And even in the feasibility study phase, before a campaign starts, before the fundraising usually starts, these are the things we work on to focus. And we'll talk actually at the very end about feasibility studies, so you have some context for what they're about. And the interesting thing, what makes it kind of keeps it fresh for myself and my team as consultants, is that no nonprofit has the exact same issues with these 6 things. For some organizations, 1 or 2 things are really well aligned and the others need work. For others, it's 2 different ones that are well aligned and the others need work. So there's a lot of variety. So let's start right now by diving in to the first, which is the dollar goal. So here are the things that you want to include in your campaign dollar goal. And I want to remind you that generally the reason that you enter a campaign, and this is really different than your annual fund campaign. A lot of nonprofits use the word campaign. You know, we're doing our annual campaign. It's totally fine, but I'm talking about dollars that are needed above what you usually need to raise money for. Okay, that's what a campaign effort is generally all about. And these are the things that you may need to include in a campaign. The cost of a building project, some program funding. A lot of people like to try to raise endowment money in campaign, and you want to put whatever it's going to cost you, whether it's staff, materials, mailing, events, consulting costs, anything that costs money as part of that campaign, you want to put into your dollar goal. Now, not everybody does a capital campaign for a building project, but I'd say most of the time, it's the most common reason that people come to us with a campaign need. The other one is program funding. We're doing a very, very large campaign now to take a mental health organization from a New York City-based organization to a national level organization, and that's almost all about program funding. Endowment is a whole nother story, but that's, people sometimes do solely endowment campaigns, where they latch it on to other campaign work. So what I wanted to do to help you understand the dollar goal for a campaign is to look at a few sample budgets. My belief is that for explaining your campaign to your donors, you need to make the budget really simple. You don't want to make it so simple that it's not real, but you want to make it simple. And it's not only actually explaining for your donors, but believe it or not, it's going to help you, your colleagues, and your board understand it better. So here's a campaign. It's actually had no physical plant building costs. It was simply programs and endowment. $6.5 million campaign, 3 line items: current initiatives, new goals, and endowment and planned gifts equals $6.5 million. Here's one. That first one was for a children's advocacy organization. This one is for a synagogue. You can see they had 5 parts of the physical plant that required renovation, and they broke the campaign expenses down by the amount of money each one of those would cost according to the architect's planning and project breakdown. And we took the cost of running the campaign and divided it among those 5 things so that it wasn't a separate line item. You know, of course, it wasn't exactly $16 million on the nose, but it was pretty close, and that's what they ended up raising. And they now actually have their new buildings. So here's a sample that don't even try to squint and read this. This is pretty much what I want you not to do, but there's a story here. So this is a $60 million campaign that this is the budget that they used with their project planning people to know, you know, a lot of details of what money was going to be spent on. This was a simpler version of that same thing: construction costs, owners related costs, soft costs, still pretty complicated. And what we did for the campaign was we broke it down just to this upper part here of this slide. In fact, it was just 2 lines. The new building, $50 million. Enhanced programming, $10 million. And the second part of that is where the money was going to be coming from. But you can see that that complex thing was now just these 2 line items, because in essence, those were the things that they really needed to raise money for. This is the second thing I want to show you in dollar goal, and then I'll stop for a minute just in case there's any questions. So once you know how much your campaign needs to raise, you want to put that into a very carefully constructed table that we call a gift table, which lists, you can see this is a $5 million goal. So at the bottom, you've got $5 million. And it's broken into 3 levels: leadership, major gifts, community gifts. And you've got the target number of gifts at each dollar level, the number of prospects you need, and the total by the goal. Now, generally, regardless of the size of your campaign, regardless of whether it's $500,000 or $50 million, you want to get most of the money from a handful of donors at the top. Doesn't always work that way. It's just requires a lot more work, a lot more meetings, a lot more outreach, and a lot more prospects if you don't. So you can see for this $5 million goal, 70% of it, $3.5 million, is coming from 8 donors. It's pretty cool. So I believe my next slide is our element number 2. So I want to stop here. Natalie, are there any questions?
Yes, we have a question from Jeff. He says, when starting the quiet phase, how do you best handle the explanation of this phase when others within the public phase find out and start asking questions about why they haven't been contacted yet?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeff. So, because I mean, depending on the type of organization and the type of community, I think part of what you're alluding to is people can feel left out. And so let me just say a few more things, and then, feel free, I'll go on to the next element, but feel free to ask a follow-up question in the chat if it's not satisfying. So there's 2 things. One is, which I think is less relevant to you, but one is that to me, a quiet phase does not mean that nobody knows about it. It simply means you're not going full throttle saying this is what you're doing. And there's very few organizations who are going to wind up like in the New York Times or some other central media organization with their campaign announced that way. So it's and even when they do, it's never the end of the world. But so in the quiet phase, you want to be getting, there's some rules of thumb. Some people say 70% of the money, some people say 60%. We've done it with much less because there's been reasons to go quote public. But the bigger issue that Jeff is bringing up is that how do you make sure everybody feels included? And it's a challenge because there's never as many development staff and or board members and volunteers as there are community members who need to be contacted about this. So we always encourage people to be, first of all, not to go public, even to your email list about, hey, we're doing this project, and people are going to find out, but you don't go publicly until you're ready to do that. And in the meantime, you want to be really clear with people. This effort is going to take time on our side, so please be patient with us. Anybody who complains and says, hey, why didn't you talk to me? Go talk to them right away and explain, look, there's one of me and there's many people I've really wanted to talk to in the community. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I see maybe there's another question.
Yes, Jeff just gave a follow-up. He said it's a church that he's talking about.
Yeah, well, I've had this issue with synagogues and churches, and it's a thing, and you need to be you just do your best to help people understand that even though from the outside it seems like, what's the big deal? We're going to raise money. There's a lot of processes and steps that are required, and we want to talk to you as soon as possible, but we want, there's a limited number of us to do that. And I think, communication, we've had, I'm thinking of one synagogue in particular where, it wasn't at all like they'd gone, quote, public with their community, which is probably what Jeff is talking about. They're, because people outside are much less interested. They've gone public with their community, and they've explained that You're going to be hearing from us over the coming months. It's going to take us a bit of time. Please be patient. Yeah, so that's the best I can offer you for right now. I hope that helps, and let's go on. One more question.
That was just Jeff saying thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, so the case for support is probably my favorite of the elements. I don't know if it's fair to have favorite elements, but here I am. And this has to do with the fact that it's very connected to the pile of money being crucial, but not really the thing that's going to secure your campaign in the strongest way. And also with that phrase I said of, it's not really about the building or the project. So here's the case for support. These are the things that you're going to want to put in your case for support. And generally, regardless of whether this is something that's going to appear on the web, whether you're going to simply print out a document from your computer, from Word, or you're going to put together a printed brochure, we encourage everybody to write something before they go any further, just so they're really clear on what their story is. So these are the parts of the case. Please take a moment and look at them. This is my cute one where there used to be a book years ago called What Shall We Name the Baby? The campaign name matters because you want something short and to the point, and that really talks to your community and about your community. I'm going to show you some examples in a moment. And the other thing that, and I think this is probably the most important point, is who is the hero of your case? Now, there's two mistakes that most nonprofits make. And, if we were just sitting around the table, I'd ask you all to guess on what the mistakes were. But mistake number one is people make their nonprofit the hero of the story. Mistake number two, in my view, is they make the donor the hero of the story. So example number one, we will be, able to do so much more if you give us this money. Mistake number two with the donor is, won't you please support this mission? Both fair things to say, but the real hero of your case is the community you serve, however you define that community. If you're a national environmental or social justice organization, it's that community. If you're a local social service organization or a church, it's your community. The community can vary, but it's that community, and the case and the campaign need to be about how that community, not you as a nonprofit, but that community is going to be stronger and in better shape as a result of the campaign. So if you're renovating a building, the reason it's not really about the building is the building is simply a means for you to serve your community better in the future. Of course, you want to talk specifically about the building and what needs to be done. We're working with a nonprofit in Poughkeepsie, New York, that's a big social service organization. They have a mammoth building that needs renovation. The case is about all the different community members who come into that building, and the fact that if that building isn't in good shape, the services that they get and their ability to live their lives is not going to be as strong as it is. And they just yesterday, they got a $2 million foundation grant, which we're just like so excited about. It's kind of amazing. Okay, so I want to show you a few examples. Actually, there's a lot to unpack in your minds for cases. So why don't I stop for a second, just in case there are any questions?
No more questions so far.
Okay, super. We can, Natalie, next time we'll do a poll. Are you still awake? But we'll see what happens. So, Okay, so I want to show you some examples of some cases that we worked on, and then one at the end that's like a cautionary tale. So this is a arts center in New York City, the Irish Arts Center. I love the name that we came up with, Almost Home. So, you know, the center is all this on the cover there is it's a rendering. That's not, the building hadn't been built yet, but it's now pretty much completed. And so Almost Home referred to, you know, we almost got this building, and, you know, New York is like kind of almost Ireland, but not exactly. So, and I want to show you the concept here. Just remember that the money is crucial and key, but it doesn't come first. So just take a look at this and then the following ones. Here we've got the cover. Then we have some inspiring lines about Ireland and about, there's a map of Ireland and kind of bringing up the feelings of Ireland. This is 5 pages in, including the cover. There's no mention of the campaign yet, because you want to set the scene. Same thing here for one of our synagogue clients. This is called A Home for the Future of Judaism. On this first page, you've got a picture of the rabbi and her husband, some quotes, some photographs that would be meaningful to the congregants, and a quote from the Bible. You've got why the future of Judaism is connected to this particular synagogue, and some more photographs. And then, whoops, and then again, 5 pages in, no mention of the campaign yet, because you're setting the scene. This last one is a children's daycare and education center in Westchester, New York. This is a little girl looking out. It's a mock-up because it's not real, but looking out over at the view from when they do build the new building, what she'll be able to look at. And this building actually was completed last year. It's pretty amazing. Looking out over the Hudson River. So you see their vision, a quote about the Children's Center, that same picture. And then on the, so this is pages 4 and 5, you've got more information. You're setting the scene of a risky future if we don't help the children in our community. So again, in each of these cases, you then turn the page to page 6 and you begin to learn about the campaign. But this is setting it up for what's important about the community and how the community will be even stronger in the future. This one, as I said, they're a cautionary tale. This is, I blacked out the name of the organization because this is what not to do. Okay, so again, if we were sitting around a table, I'd ask people, well, what do you see here? And, you know, for me, first of all, I see it's not exactly black and white, but it's almost black and white. The Centennial Campaign is probably the most boring name I've ever heard of. And I'm looking at a building. Yippee. It's very different, by the way. Like, you know, just take a quick look at, that's a pretty exciting building to look at. That one there, maybe not so much. So, and then we get to a table of contents. Again, yippee, I want to get inspired. I don't really need a table of contents. This is a school, by the way, which is why it's remarkable to me there were no kids on the front. And here, in fact, we have kids. We have the backs of 2 kids. And then the part I like best about this one is that I'm just going to read out loud the first few sentences. There are moments in an institution's history that define its very existence. Okay. These are moments when challenges are turned into opportunities, when progress becomes greatness, and when dreams are transformed into reality. This is absolutely no questions asked. Like, this is a boilerplate thing that somebody grabbed from somewhere else. This has really nothing to do with the organization. So this is simply a cautionary tale to like get real, be inspiring, be like viscerally excited and exciting about your case. again, Natalie, I'm just going to stop for a moment in case anybody has any questions, comments. Hope you don't work at that school that we showed that case about. And if you do, I hope they're doing well.
There are no questions.
Okay. Okay, so we're now going to touch on prospects, which is clearly a vital part of your, sorry, I just got out of the full screen thing. Go back. So without prospects, you're dead in the water. You got to have people and foundations and perhaps others who are going to give to your campaign. And while it's probably the most important, I still think the case for support is the most exciting. So here we go. Let's look at this for a couple minutes. The things that people generally ask about and need to figure out for their campaign are, do I have enough potential donors? How do I evaluate them? And where can I get more? So let's look at some things that have to do with prospects. So this is the same gift table that we looked at under the dollar goal for $5 million campaign. You'll see that if we look at the very center of it, the number of prospects needed in this particular situation is 184. And on the very bottom line of community gifts, it says many. Those are gifts of less than $5,000. And I don't want to belittle those because, you know, gifts of less than $5,000 are still very generous and very needed. That's, you know, altogether they equal $200,000, which is not at all a small sum of money. But our belief is that you need to focus on the top. And when you do that successfully, the rest is going to flow for your campaign. And in fact, some of the people who you're hoping are going to give at the high levels will filter down to the lower level. So we don't put a number in usually for those because it's going to skew to a much higher number. So for argument's sake, for this particular campaign, you need 184 prospects. So if we were working with this nonprofit, we would say, well, you need at least 184 prospects. How many donors do you have in your database? And then we would look, you know, let's say if somebody's got 1,000 donors in their database, we start to look at the giving history and we do some wealth screening. We use a system called Donor Search, which is a subscription. And that gives us some additional data on how much perhaps people can give. And then we start to categorize by gift level. And then we can see, okay, well, you have 1,000 prospects in your database and you know, we've mapped a certain number of people out to these levels, you know, then we can get a very initial sense of whether we think you can be successful or not. And generally, we do that as part of a feasibility study where we also actually interview anywhere from 10 to 50 or 60 of your potential donors to figure out what they think about the campaign and how much they might give. So the other thing is that we'll often encounter nonprofits that simply don't yet have enough donors to reach that goal. So say we looked at that $5 million gift table and they only had 50 donors to fit in 184. We would advise them that they need to spend some time developing their natural networks. If you download those free tools, and Natalie, you might put that in the chat again sometime in the next few minutes. If you download the free tools, one of them is called My Natural Networks, and it gives you some tools on some instructions on how to do this process. These are some of the areas you might look. And then in terms of organizing the process, we always recommend some sort of spreadsheet. These days we use Google Docs a whole lot with our clients. It's very simple. And we usually call this the top prospect report. This is separate from your database, although your database can be the source of it. In other words, you can run the reports from the database if you want, but that's a whole nother conversation. So the purpose of this is, let's say you're ready to get going on the fundraising for your campaign. You want to put the names of all your potential donors in here. That you can see those are the two columns that are empty because we're not putting anybody's real names here. You put the names, and then whoever's going to do the fundraising, whether it's a staff member, a few staff members, executive director, and a development person, and or some volunteers, you want to map out how much activity you can do every month. And we're going to talk about staffing and systems in a couple minutes, and that's pertinent to this. Is the reason that there's arrows at the bottom there is the most important columns are the next step dates and the action you're going to take. So you have to figure out how much activity the people who are going to be doing the outreach have the capacity for, and then you put only that many potential prospects in that month so that you're not trying to do everything all at once. So again, we'll talk about that for just a few minutes again. I see, I think there's a couple questions, Natalie.
Yes, they're from Gary. So he asked, when constructing a building and developing a capital campaign to fund the building, how important is it to have a sample rendering of the site and facility plan? And he also says, and if a nonprofit is interested in naming opportunities for certain rooms or sections, how best to approach that?
Oh, those are great questions. I'll just give a headline on those, and Gary, you should feel free to follow up with me afterwards if I can be more helpful. My contact information will be at the end, and that goes for everybody else also. So sooner or later, if you're going to build something or renovate something, you're going to need architects, you're going to need actual contractors, you're going to need renderings. The more that you can share that information early on with potential donors, the more it makes it real for them rather than just giving to an idea. That's the experience we've had. So quick, for instance, yesterday we had a meeting with a potential client that they are considering either renovating their current facility or moving to somewhere else in the same town and building a new one. And they want us to do a feasibility study. We can test those two things. It's much easier to test a single decision. We can do that, but when you have something, the more specificity you have, the better your donors can push up against it. And the other thing, Gary, is that a lot of times nonprofits get way ahead of the curve with the architectural planning and even putting a down payment on a site. And then they're like, oh, wait, it's time to get the fundraising in shape. So anything you can do to get the campaign engine running, like looking at each of these 6 elements and making sure you know what's going on with each of them, the better off you're going to be, so that the fundraising isn't way behind the rest of the project. Because there are often forces of, the board and others, are, deadlines that are going to make people want to put shovels in the ground before you actually have the money. See that happen a lot. Naming opportunities is a whole another thing. They're crucial. Many, not always, but most of the time, to inspire donors. They're often not the main thing that's going to inspire donors, but we like to make sure that everybody audits the potential naming opportunities, particularly in a building project. And then there's a process to go through to kind of, prioritize those and put dollar amounts next to them. But I hope that that's at least somewhat helpful. So I'm going to keep going. We're going to talk for just a couple minutes about the campaign committee. So this is element number 4. The important thing here is that having a group of engaged volunteers, board members, donors, even staff members, and not even, but also staff members, so that they're engaged, and maybe other community leaders, maybe like 10 to 15 people. Don't make it too big. Having them involved in this project is going to make it a lot more successful, even if you could go out and raise the money all on your own as a staff member, because you're engaging the community in your future. And the one of the big secrets about a capital campaign is when it's well done at the end, you have this great pile of money in your bank account for a building, programs, endowment, whatever. But if you've involved a whole lot of people, you've actually knit your community together much more strongly than it was before. So it's like a secondary but great outcome that continues on past when the campaign is finished. So let's look just for a couple minutes at the campaign committee. So hey, I didn't even remember that I'd said before it's 10 to 15 members, but here I am. I said the same thing. So we like to have 2 people as co-chairs, sometimes 3. It allows for diversity of all sorts of, gender, where you come from in the community, race, all sorts of different diversities are available with that. Sometimes you want to have some really prominent community members as honorary co-chairs. What does the committee do? Well, these are the 2 main things. Generally, face-to-face or Zoom-to-Zoom meetings, can also do conference calls, email correspondence. We like to make sure that the nonprofit updates the committee monthly on the progress of the campaign, or if it hasn't started yet, on the campaign planning. We often like to have a core group of 3 to 5 of those people who are involved a little more closely, and we give everybody a job description for what they're going to be doing, so that they don't say yes to joining a committee that they're not really clear on what it is. Talk a lot more about committee because it's also important, but I wanted to move on to staffing and systems and staffing, which is element 5. And once I do this, I'll pause before element 6 and see if there's any questions. Doesn't look like there are at the moment. So, just like I talked about at the beginning, the word campaign means you have to be using strategy and you have to be thoughtful how to do this, and you need good systems to be thoughtful and strategic. So just take a gander at this list of some of the systems we have in mind. All right, there's a lot of details in all of this. These are, in addition to the thinking about the actual fundraising and the case, this is a lot of the work that we often do with our clients, because you're doing a lot day to day just to keep the regular tasks of the nonprofit working and the regular tasks of fundraising. So we kind of have the headspace and the mindset to be able to help put these things in place. This is a chart. You'll get this obviously with the slides, so I'm not going to go into extreme detail, but it basically helps you map how much activity you need every month with your donor base in order to reach certain campaign goals. And if you just look at the year 2, right above where it says dedicated staff, the energetic level, I'll just explain that. You've got each month of the year, and the 8 refers to the number of donor meetings that your entire organization will figure out how to have per month in order to reach your goal. This works really well for major gifts fundraising also, but you'll see that at the end of the year, you have 96 meetings. We're going to assume only 48 of those are solicitations, because maybe you met somebody twice to cultivate them. Maybe something happened. And then only 24 of those solicitations turn into gift. That's a pretty conservative number. And then if you make an average amount for the solicitation, you can kind of gauge how much you're going to raise. Staffing. Okay, is there ever enough? I've worked at Columbia University. I've worked at other universities. I've worked at small places. There's never enough staffing. You're going to need to have some specific staff who can focus on the campaign, at least for part of their workday. And you need to be honest about it. Here's a few questions you can ask. Just take a look at those questions. This is a lot of what we look at when we're evaluating an organization's readiness for a campaign. And then I said I would pause. It doesn't look like they're questions, but Natalie, anything?
Nope, no new questions.
Okay, this is a very smart and focused group we've got here. So the last element is timing. And then, like I said, I'm going to look for just a moment at what a feasibility study is all about. So timing is an interesting thing. What do I mean by timing? I mean, this relates a bit, I think, to Gary's question, because how do you time when a campaign is going to start? Is your project a nice idea, or is it like urgent and something's got to happen right now, or we're going to be in big trouble because literally the roof is leaking, or our programs are not serving our community? So you have to figure out how quickly you have to act on getting that campaign rolling, and then how long it's going to take you to raise the money once it gets going. These are some of the things we ask. And what I want to do is show you just a few of the timelines we've done for a number of different campaigns. This is that children's center where I showed you the picture of the girl looking out over the river. This campaign actually just finished 2 months ago. It ended up being a $19.2 million campaign. It was a very challenging project, took a lot of years, but amazing facility that they've now got. So this was just like a kind of high level, what happens when timeline. So we could understand it, their board could understand it, their donors could understand it. And you'll see that quiet phase and public phase, and the campaign period and the pledge period. And just a note on that, your pledge period, generally, depending on the organization and a number of factors, we recommend a maximum of 5 years for a donor to pay off a pledge. For some organizations, we make that 3. But the pledge period is always different from the campaign period, because if you have a 2-year campaign, somebody could come in the last month of that 2 years and make a 3-year pledge. So that would go on past when the actual campaign fundraising is happening. I see there's a question. I'm just going to look at the rest of these timelines, and then we'll pause for that. This one is simply a spreadsheet that shows timing for income stuff and then expense stuff, and when it's going to happen. When are we going to have to start spending money on the renovations and that sort of stuff. This one was more like the different types of fundraising over different periods of time. You can see lead gifts and major gifts, how many meetings we were going to have, and that sort of thing. And I'm just going to wrap up the feasibility and planning study, and then we'll do questions because we're getting near the hour. Respect everybody's time. Feasibility or planning study or engagement study, they're all pretty much the same thing. It's a term that we use in the field. These are the reasons you want to do it. So take a little read of this. the exciting thing about doing a feasibility study is that it's not like a one-off, oh boy, we got to do this, and it's, you know, it's going to cost us money, and it's not really part of the campaign. It's exactly the opposite of that. It's a great way for an organization to get all of these 6 elements organized and ready for the campaign, and to warm up a subset of your potential donors before the organization comes and asks them. Because the feasibility study is usually done by external folks like consultants, such as ourselves. You can certainly do it as nonprofit staff, but it kind of gets the process moving a little too fast sometimes. So here's the outcomes that we like to see in a study. You can do 10 interviews, but we like to do a minimum of 15. And, you know, there's a good question that people often ask is, you know, what should I look for in a campaign consultant? That's us. That's me with short hair on the left there. And if you happen to have a need, we'd be happy to help you. And also, this is, you'll get this in the slides. We love to get reviews. This is a little, I'm not going to pause on this, but I don't really know how to find it other than scroll, you know, grabbing that thing and going there. We love Google reviews. But this is how to find us on our website, LinkedIn. We have a pretty robust YouTube channel. For some reason, I have like one of the top 3 YouTubes on fundraising. You go to our channel, and that's our info. So, Natalie, before I thank everybody for their time and attention, do we have a question or two?
We do, yeah, we have a question from Audrey. She says, do you recommend starting a capital campaign for a church building renovation when general fund giving for the year is under budget? And what factors would be considered?
Yeah, so I'd say that the 2 church campaigns that we've worked on, that's been the situation for both of them. And it would really depend on whether you think there's people in the community who have the resources to support the campaign if you approach them and discuss the need with them, right? Because you want, like, you know, you want to be successful, and you can try that by talking with a small group of people, even before or instead of a feasibility study. You can just go talk to the people who you think would be doing it. And if I'm guessing that your fundraising needs to be kind of, the volume needs to be turned up on it in general, if your resources are under budget. So you might want to do kind of like a joint ask. It's like you got to get your act together for fundraising overall. And if you're going to do a campaign, you'd probably want to reach out to people and say, hey, you know, this is how much the campaign is going to cost. Would you be able to consider a gift of this amount over a few years? And would you also, as part of your gift, you know, increase your annual support? And because, in fact, some people get scared that a campaign will cannibalize the annual support, but if it's done well, you can actually increase annual support as well. So anyway, Natalie, that's the deal for today. I just wanted to thank you, and if you have any closing words, or if anybody else has questions, I'm here.
Yeah, well, thank you, Peter, for giving us that awesome presentation today. I hope that everybody enjoyed, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will hang out for a couple minutes to see if any other questions get put in, but if not, enjoy your day, and thanks for coming.
All right. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everybody.
It looks like there's no more questions. So thank you so much, Peter. I will be in touch with you this afternoon, so you should expect an email from me.
Great. And thank you. And be well.
You as well. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.